Hey yo guys, this is Jared aka the Saint of Sins on Xbox Live, bringing you some more MLB thoughts with once again in the background the Cleveland Indians versus the Toronto Blue Jays on MLB 2K12 MLB Today mode on Legend difficulty. A quick recap over yesterday's predictions. I've ended the day 5-4, managing to get wrong the Tigers-Rays game, the Twins-Angels game, the Phillies-Marlins game, and of course the Pirates and Dodgers game. This now brings my record on the season to 47-48. Today's events kick off at 1:05 p.m. Eastern in New York as the Yankees send up Hiroki Kuroda to face off against the Angels' Ervin Santana. I'm picking the Yankees in this one. Over in Boston, Josh Beckett will take to the mound to face off against the Rays' David Price. I'm taking the Rays to kick off this series with a victory. The White Sox and Jake Peavy will host Max Scherzer and the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers are red hot, and I believe they will remain red hot in Chicago, taking the first game in this weekend series. St. Louis will host Jeff Samardzija and the Chicago Cubs as Adam Wainwright takes to the mound. The Cardinals have also been red hot, and I expect them to remain as such, in this first game with a victory. Derek Lowe and the Cleveland Indians head down to Kansas City to face off against the Royals' Luke Hochevar, and I expect a big victory for the Tribe. The Pirates will continue their grueling road schedule out in the West Coast as they head over to San Francisco to face off against Matt Cain, with Jason McDonald taken to the mound for the Buccos. Thus far, this road trip has not been kind to them, and I don't expect it to change in this one, as San Francisco will likely take Game 1. The Cincinnati Reds roll into Washington as they send up Bronson Arroyo to face off against Nationals' Jordan Zimmerman. I went back and forth on this one for a bit, but I'm settling on the Reds for a victory. The New York Mets travel down to Citizens Bank Ballpark as R.A. Dickey takes to the mound to face off against Phillies' Cliff Lee. This one I also went back and forth on for a little bit, but I'm going with the Mets to edge out this Friday victory. Over at the Rogers Center, the Blue Jays send up Brandon Morrow to face off against Baltimore Orioles and Tommy Hunter. I'm siding with the Orioles to take Game 1 of this weekend series. Down in Miami, Ricky Nolasco will be charged with facing off against Lucas Harrow as the Marlins host the Astros. I'm siding with the Astros to take Game 1 of this series. The Milwaukee Brewers send up Randy Wolf as they head into Atlanta to face off against the Braves' Jair Jurgens. I'll be siding with Atlanta to take this pitching matchup in their favor. The Twins will host the Rangers as Anthony Swarzak takes to the mound to face off against Matt Harrison. Oddly enough, I have a gut feeling that the Twins will win out this first game. National League West Division play will heat up in Colorado as the Rockies host the Diamondbacks as Juan Nicasio faces off against Daniel Hudson. I'm riding on a D-backs victory in this one. Over in Seattle, the Mariners will once again face off against the Athletics as Felix Hernandez once again faces off against Bartolo Colon for the second time this month. And for the third time thus far into the season, I'll be riding on the back of Felix Hernandez to carry his team to yet another victory. The Padres and Dodgers will clash once again, this time in Los Angeles, as Clayton Richard takes to the mound to face off against the Dodgers' Aaron Harang. I'm picking the Padres to upset here and kick off this series with a win. And that will wrap up my picks for today. With a little more than a week having been played within the season thus far, let's take a quick look at the standings and how teams may be shaping up for their October runs. Leading off with the American League, we take a look at the East, as Toronto and Tampa Bay sit at 4-2 atop the division, and shockingly enough, Boston sits at the very bottom once again, starting off very sluggishly at 1-5. By this time last season, the Bo Sox sat at a pitiful 2-9 record, going a pitiful 0-6 on the road to start off the season. Unlike last season, I'm really not willing to listen to any of the critics claim that the Boston Red Sox are completely out of the running and may have a dreadful season. The team is playing under a new manager for the first time in 8 years, and for Bobby Valentine, this is his first managerial job in over 10 years. There are still certainly going to be some issues with this lineup as they try and figure out what they're going to do with certain individuals, namely what they'll do with Carl Crawford once he returns off the DL. Thus far, they've played a really rough schedule, facing off against the Tigers, who are ranked first in runs and batting average, and are ranked second in on-base percentage and slugging percentage. And the Blue Jays have been successful in giving them fits as well, as Blue Jays starting pitching has only surrendered 3 runs over 19 2/3 innings pitched. Things will continue to remain rough for Boston, as right now they head into a weekend series against division rivals, the Tampa Bay Rays. In the Central, things seem to be a little more interesting as Detroit sits atop 5-1, while the Cleveland Indians, who are expected to be the top front runners to battle against the Tigers for the Central crown, sit at 1-4. And in the West, things couldn't be any worse for the Angels right now as they sit at the very bottom with a stinker of a record of 2-4. The Rangers continue their success and hopeful bid for a Western pennant as they sit on 5-2. Off to the National League, we see in the East that Washington sits atop with a 5-2 record, and oddly enough, Philadelphia sits in the middle of the pack with a 3-3, probably in large part due to the fact that Ryan Howard and Chase Utley are down with injury, which has limited the run support that their pitchers are getting. Also shocking is that Atlanta and Miami sit at 2 victories on the season at the very bottom of the National League East. Over in the Central, St. Louis looks red hot and almost unstoppable, sitting at 5-2 as they continue to play ball as if Albert Pujols was never a contributing factor to this team over the past 10 years. Pitching has also been their strong suit despite the fact that Chris Carpenter has gone down with injury and could likely miss the entire season. Not shocking is at the bottom, the Chicago Cubs sit at a pitiful 2-5, closely followed by the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are having a rough start to the season with a strong schedule set against them as they sit at 2-4. And finally in the West, we could have a real barn burner of a race towards the end of the season if things continue the way they are, as Los Angeles sits at 6-1 and Arizona follows very closely behind them with a 5-1 record. The rest of the division sits at only 2 victories on the season. Particularly rough has been the San Francisco starting pitching thus far, as Tim Lincecum has had 2 dreadful outings, surrendering 11 runs on 14 hits and 7 2/3 innings. And according to ESPN's power rankings as of April 9th, the top 5 teams in the league right now would be the Tigers, the Rays, the Diamondbacks, the Rangers, and the Angels. Oddly enough, at the very bottom of the list would be the Houston Astros, despite the fact that they sat at a 2-1 record when that listing went up. This would be a better start to the season than the Boston Red Sox, the San Francisco Giants, the Atlanta Braves, and the Minnesota Twins, who all suffered 3 losses by the time of publication for this list. So when looking at ESPN's power rankings, try to take everything with a grain of salt, people. And with that, that's going to wrap up this edition of MLB Thoughts. I will see you guys later. Peace.